understand why that's a real, you know, these are the people who are being hurt and being victimized. You know, what are we going to do for them? Studies, you know, we're you know, taking folks to rally for rallies and written letters and made phone calls and met with state legislators.
Large farms, they're somewhat hidden, they think. But I've been in Duplin County pretty much all my life, so I know where they're at. See, that's a spray field. Okay. Look at how close it is to that home there.
How do you know it's a spray field?
You see those sprinklers there?
I see.
They're sprinklers. Now they have a reel in this field, but they also use sprinkler system. And it's piped under the highway.
To begin with, the water quality. Next, I would say effects on community health, individual health, starting with you know, the burning eyes and the sniffling and the headaches, which is what I experience regularly, into the respiratory illnesses, to the chronic diseases. So this might be one that might need to be reported, isn't that right?
Yeah, get this number. It's raining. Not much rainfall, but it's still raining. Okay, when we was on Beaches Mill Road and we saw a rig like that sitting close to the highway, okay, you see how far that jet is being launched out? So you know if you were driving and there was spraying, your car's getting wet. Yeah. And I mean, look how far it's getting out there. What if you had some wind going in that same direction?
The third thing I would put on the laundry list is effects on people, you know, the air. People can't go out comfortably and have a cookout or sit out in the yard. Hang clothes in the yard, wash their car. Some people even have the effects of it when they're sitting in their houses.
You really need to see things like this from the air, because the first road that we came up 1,004 is just maybe a quarter mile through the woods, just straight across.
I am Bob Epting, and I am a pilot with the Neuse River Squadron, which is a group of pilots who fly environmental flights in the mission of trying to find and end pollution in the Neuse River Basin. That's where we started. We now fly in every river basin in North Carolina. Foremost, we need to eliminate the lagoon system of waste management. The lagoon system relies upon the legal fiction that integrators like Smithfield have the contractual right to shift the burden of waste disposal from the owner of the hog, which is the integrator, to the landowner, who are the local farmers. I had the great privilege of being appointed to serve, and did serve on the state's Environmental Management Commission. That is a commission that is tasked with making the regulations to protect and improve air and water quality in North Carolina. And so we dealt during that era with rules that were to be applicable to the hog industry. What was important was that we began a conversation and we kept at a conversation that has resulted in this more modern era of an understanding that we've got to get rid of the lagoon system in North Carolina. That it's not a treatment system at all. It is in fact a practically discharging system that is not sufficiently regulated and that can't be regulated given the number of hogs we have in the state.
So that's a what? 1, 2, how many barns is that? Can you guess how many within half mile that we just traveled either direction that you had not seen, that you could not see? So that's just how dense. Because if there's some trees, you can rest assured there's some hog facilities behind it somewhere. See that reel there we just looked at? Look at this ditch. Now when they begin to spray, someone tell me where it's going to drain off to. And I always look at this as well. You got a field back there and this creek running through here. Water runs downhill. When they're pumping or spraying for 8 hours a day and into the night, the ground is saturated. Even after a rain, you know, the water is, this waste has got to go somewhere. So there's always some of it eventually getting into the stream. There's another facility with a lagoon in the back.
The numbers are just striking. Pigs excrete something on the order of 5 to 7 times more waste than humans, so that a 10,000 animal operation is actually generating as much waste as most of the cities in North Carolina that are 50,000 people or smaller in size. And those municipalities are spending tens of millions of dollars on wastewater treatment, and yet an animal operation, just one animal operation with 10,000 animals, is causing a lot more waste that is not treated at all. It's simply put in a Johnny House sort of pond facility, allowed to settle out, and then the liquid is sprayed onto the surrounding field. So it makes not much sense when you think that east of I-95 there are 10 million such animals excreting a waste that's equivalent to the waste of the added together of the states of New York and California, all between I-95 and the coast, not being treated but just simply sprayed onto fields and let to sink into the groundwater and run off into the surface waters, some part of which of course is taken up in the agronomically in the crops that are grown. It just doesn't make any sense that wastewater treatment is not required, so that the product, so that the effluent that's going into our waters is at least as clean as the effluent from municipal systems. So I think, and many folks who share this view believe that the integrators ought to be required to obtain NPDES permits for these large-scale animal operations, for the very simple reason that the effect of their wastewater treatment process is that it does discharge by way of runoff to canals that run into streams, that run into the public waters of the state and of the nation. And that's what the NPDES system was put into place to both permit and regulate. I have never flown and not seen a violation. We flew today, and you photographed violations. Whether it's spraying in wet weather, whether it's spraying in windy weather, whether it's spraying on top of saturated fields, which means essentially that you're spraying into waters that are already running off into the waters of the state. Whether it's having facilities built within wetlands or too close to rivers and streams, every time we fly, we see violations. There have not been any significant prosecution of those kinds of violations since the Attorney General, Easley as Attorney General, made this agreement under which the integrators paid in $5 million to the technology fund. And really, as a result of that $5 million, were given a permit to operate however they wanted to operate.
Are there any other psychological problems?
Well, I think the psychological problem, just based on my thinking, is, well, it sort of is related, but it feeds into the whole problem as in general, in that, you know, the social injustices, you know, we're already there. And so, you know, when you talk about oppression, the oppression is already started. That's what makes it easier for them to implement these operations, and so the psychological problems are just enhanced. We believe, at least I believe that, and it also from some of the research. I think Steve may have mentioned it yesterday. Depression. I've even thought that it's affected me from time to time.
That's the reason why people are afraid to speak so many times. because they say, I would speak, but my son drives truck. Or I would speak, or my son or my father works at the rendering plant. I would speak, but they works at the poultry plant. All of them owned by Smithville, or the pork industry.
And this is also another reason we don't have more Latinos
Right.
on our team, is because most of them around here work at those plants. Not just the plants, but also the hog farm.
If you got a power structure in a county, in a community, in a state or whatever, and said, you can't do this because there's no one going to be there to protect you, or no one is to get you, cover your back, and we know where you live, and we know what you own, and we can get it. We can take it from you. What does that do to a people?
In Rainbow community, yeah, there are dead boxes that are actually in front of people's houses, and the bacteria contaminated water floods down into their yards, gets their groundwater. They're smelling it constantly. There are buzzards flying around the dead boxes constantly. That's the same community I was talking about earlier. And people are afraid to complain.
Yeah, that's one of the smaller dead boxes.
Now, okay, this is your side of the story. What are these hog farmers going to say is going on here?
He's going to say it's my land.
He's going to say, look at we're getting these crops. You know, we got all this land. We're putting the manure on. We're raising cattle on it. And what is he's going to have a different story than you do, right?
Yes.
But can you put yourself in his place, or will he say, yeah, please?
Well, I wouldn't want to be in his place, really, because I think somehow the industry itself lied to him, and now he's in it over his head, and
He can't quit.
he can't quit because he's mortgaged his property to build these facilities. You see this cemetery there? You see how close it is to that facility? That cemetery was there first.
I went to a burial there at that cemetery. It was unbearable. Unbearable. Back in October, folks came down here and they said the same thing. They said, we thought we had problems. There were a bunch of people from all over the country.
Yeah.
There was a group from, these were grantees, and a group from Harlem, and their project was on asthma with school-age children. They said, our problem is really minor in comparison.
Yeah.
And they're all major problems, but people don't believe that in 2007 we still have these kinds of issues.
So let me understand this. Are you saying that right now in your community here, you can't drink the water out of your...
We don't. In some cases, like you saw on the video, the water from the industrial hog operations is contaminating the well water. So people who had to convert to city water or county water, and so in many cases, well, in every case, they have to pay for that themselves, even though they were relying on the well before, it didn't cost them a dime. And also, keeping in mind, this is a poor county, and most people who are having to convert are people who can't afford to do that. These are people who are poor or disabled, elderly. They just don't have the resources, and nobody's willing to help them with the resources.
It's $800 just to tap into the city water or county system. And there is some areas in Duplin County that don't have county water.
Are there any of these CAFO owners you would consider good neighbors?
Well, when we talked to our legislator, our representative a few weeks ago, he told us that before and this was his story, and before he started his business, that he did go to the neighbors and talk to them and let them know that this was going to be the case, and he said he's never had any complaints. I got the impression he really would like to be a good neighbor, and he really would like to do the right thing. However, as a legislator, he is not. He's the one that Smithville helped with few $1 million so they could defeat Cindy Watson,
Yeah.
the Republican legislator who was already in there and who was fighting against the hog facilities.
And you know, it's one thing to say that I went to my neighbors and told them I was going to build a facility, and I'm saying, so what? You told your neighbor what you were going to do, and you did it. Your neighbor had no control. And when it comes time to spray, whether your neighbor likes it or not, you may wait until, you know, you may try to help your neighbor, but if you have to spray, you're going to spray. And so if you really want to be friendly, and this is what I said to him, if you really want to be friendly, then why are you proposing a bill to capture methane from the lagoons? Why don't you sign on to a bill to get rid of the lagoons? It don't have to be 5 years. I'm not saying it has to be 10 years. But if there's a date certain, then all these people that's raising hogs, industrial people with these industrial hog farms, they know that there's a date set aside that they've got to clean up these lagoons, get rid of them. If there's a date certain, that is a start. That's a start.
What was going on in Dublin County to make money before hogs?
Corn, tobacco, soybean. When corn went,
The same people.
yeah, same people. But see, here's what happened. There was people making money with hogs on the range like you see back here.
Yeah.
But when you get large pork producers that say, hey, look, there is good money in pork. So they find ways to shut the little man down. If they was able to raise hogs years ago, 25 years ago, and make a living, and there was enough pork to feed the nation then, why not do it now? The only reason why not do it now is because you got 2 or 3 pork producers say, you know what, I want it all for myself.
I wasn't quite clear at the end of the day yesterday whether the primary problem was enforcement or the primary problem was legislation. In other words, if all of the laws that are in place were enforced, would you be basically okay here, or is it lack of legislation?
It's like laws, civil rights laws. You know, you might have the laws there, that doesn't mean people are gonna really enforce them or abide by them. So a lot of it, we think, is really up to communities and people really putting some force on folks to make things happen. And you know, so we're building our forces locally. You know, we've got all these people, you know, poor people, people of color who are ready to speak up now. You know, so one thing that we haven't done yet has really to put pressure on our local government. We don't have much faith in them, obviously. So we haven't really taken the time to talk to them, but at least like when we've talked with our state legislators and they claim, well, I didn't know this was a problem. I mean, they live here and they have hog farms. You know, but at least we need to let them know we're not willing to continue to suffer this. This is not only hurting them, it's hurting you too.